Hey everybody, the round 16 preview continues, and I've gone and gotten one of the better fan channels in the league, to be honest. I've got Jake from Saints TV with me to preview this match. Jake, welcome back, mate. We do it all over again.
I know, mate. I know. It feels like what's it? This the third time, fourth time now we've done it since 2018. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think we spoke. Yeah, we did. We spoke before the preseason game.
That's right. We were on. We did that. We did last year, and you guys. It's actually complete opposite to last year, isn't it? Because you were nervous, and we were kind of a chance still to sneak the 8 on a good run, and then you just pantsed us on the Thursday or Friday night.
Mate, I remember that game last year. Obviously, we won the game. It was a great win, but I was so like distraught from 2021 that like the win was good, but it was almost like a kick to the face. It was like, where's this been all year?
But you've backed it up. You've actually backed it up. So, I mean, you've got a little smirk on your face. I know I spoke to the was it the Blues Brothers, the potty on
the Almost Blues Brothers.
Almost
Yes.
Blues Brothers. Yeah, that was a good chat, and they were pretty chuffed, pretty up and about. So I'm pretty nervous about Friday night, to be honest. I'm not feeling too confident just yet.
Yeah. I just did my preview and it just went out, and it's a really weird one for me this week. And I'm being dead serious. Like last week, I was pretty confident we'd beat Freo because, it's at home, it's at our house, it's not over there in Perth. They're up and about. But I follow the Saints, probably because of you, to be honest. Ever since I've met you, I've just followed them a little bit more closely. And the one thing about the Saints that I've always noticed is it's the moment you start writing them off that they win this massive game. And they've lost a couple in a row now. You've won 5 in a row early in the year, looking fantastic. And I'm not going into this game saying, how good we're going to be. I know how good we can be, but I also know that the moment you think you've got St Kilda figured out, either way, good or bad, they find a way to prove you wrong.
That is the frustrating thing about being a Saints fan, mate. The inconsistency, like within the same season, within the same game, you'll see the best and the worst of this team. So the last 3 weeks for us have been crazy because it was after the bye. We were 8-3 in the top 4, thanks to the Pies beating the Blues. So that kind of shuffled the spot around a little bit for us. And Brisbane game wasn't too bad. We kind of got a bit unlucky. So we kind of wrote that off as a fan base. We're like, Brisbane at the Gabba, 26 points or whatever it was, lost 3 players to injury in the game. Fair enough. Most teams would lose that way. That's a good loss. And then Spud's game comes around against the Bombers. They're under pressure. We always cop teams like that. Just the media's going at them. They got to respond. They come out and blitz us. And then the Sydney game's a crunch game, and we're always kind of nervous going into those because we just tend to not live up to it. And that's exactly what happened in the game. The pre-game feeling was what happened on the field. We just didn't show up. So this week it's now a new feeling of no expectation. Right. It's all on the Blues. The pressure's on the Blues.
Yeah.
So it's a different feeling.
They're talking about us. Are we genuine flag contenders?
Are
we
you?
This, are we that? Are we, mate, we haven't even played finals yet. So
that's it.
I believe for the first time in a very long time that we're a pretty good team when we're at our best. Yep. I believe that our best football can match it with just about anyone on any given day. However, just because I feel that way doesn't mean we're going to win on Friday. I think we've shown a little bit more this year where other teams are probably respecting us a bit more. I think in the past it was a bit of, it's Carlton. We know that we're, mentally stronger than them. So I think we're a much better team than, 12 months ago. Yeah. But I also am very aware that if we don't come with that same hunt mentality, and if St Kilda hunt us this week, you can beat us for sure.
Yeah, that's a frustrating thing. We've proven it. We beat Geelong, we beat Richmond, we beat Fremantle in Perth. which is very hard to do. Our performances at their best are top 4 levels, they're very, very good. And the last 3 weeks we haven't seen it, but we all know that if Max King's on, if Jack Steele gets a bit of a run, his first game back last week was pretty good, but he'll be better. Paddy Ryder and Brad Hill potentially, depending on what happens with the news, they could be straight in. Jack Higgins as well, he was dropped. So there's a few guns that could come in, and they're very important for us, being small, a runner, and obviously our second ruck that can kick goals as well. So if we get them back, I think I'll feel a little bit better about Friday night. But it's just the midfield, against Carlton. Everyone talked about Melbourne's midfield last year and how good they were and how they hunted the ball, but they could also go forward and kick goals and their clearances are clean. It's now on the flip, Carlton's midfield's following suit a little bit. You've got Cripps in the best form of his life all year. Brownlow, fancy, particularly the first 10 weeks. Walsh had a blinder last week. I think it was Cripps tagged last week, and that's why Walsh got off the chain a little bit.
Cripps has just been filling in with ruck duties recently around the ground. Yeah. He just hasn't quite been at his prolific best, but he's still been. It's like Jack Steele. If Jack Steele doesn't get 35, doesn't mean he's had a bad game. He's just not, locking in the 3 votes type game.
Yeah. So midfield for me is kind of, if we break even, that's huge, and the game's on. It's in the balance. If we win the midfield battle, which will take a lot because your midfield is very good and ours has been down big time, that'll obviously give us the best chance of winning. And then if we're losing the midfield, that's, potential to get fairly ugly based on your forward line and how powerful it is in the air, but also your smalls, your underrated smalls. I think, is it Durden? I can't remember.
It's Corey Durden.
He's quite good. There was another guy, you posted a video of him during the week kicking a goal on the run. What's his name again? Starts with C.
Cottrell.
Like you've got, I don't know, you're just finding goals from players that not many outsiders would know. But when you look at the goal sheets every week, they're always there with 1 or 2. Do you know what I mean? They're not inconsistent. They're always around there supporting the talls. So even if we stop the talls, it becomes a ground ball, and you're still very good there. So you've got all the bases covered in my eyes at the moment. I don't see, from my point of view, a clear weak link. The weakest might be the back line, depending on if obviously your best defender comes back this week or not. But I'm hearing he may. So
yeah. Well, I will get to the ins in a moment, but I do want to touch a little bit more on the Saints situation, because being the outsider that I am, I'm never going to understand the full context. And I know that you watch every second and read every word. Since I remember when the bye happened, and I think there was something about Rats rallying the troops and talking about this is the real opportunity to really do something special. I remember some rhetoric around that. Is it expectation that you put it down to what's happened for you guys with you? Like, if it's just a lull. I feel like it's just a down patch and you're going to get through it at some point. It's just a matter of whether it's this week, next week, or whenever. Yeah. So what is it in your eyes? What is the situation?
Some people will say it's coaching. Some people will say, and I've heard rumors that the training load has gone up significantly in the lead up to this big 4-week period where we play all the teams in the top 8, which is what a lot of the top 4 to 6 teams do at this time. They up that training regime to prep for finals. And Geelong did it 2 weeks ago, and that's why they nearly lost to West Coast over there. They have worked themselves that hard, but now they're playing their best footy, so no coincidence. Melbourne as well. I think it's just attitude. It's just an annoying cop-out, because when you're 8-3, you go into the bye. I'm just picturing it from my point of view if I was a player in that position. Great, 8-3, we've got a week off. Awesome, let's take a break, go to Byron Bay, see the family, have a cheeky beer, that's it, But then you come back and you're like, we're 8-3, we're in the top 4. For the rest of the season, boys, we're not dropping lower than 4th. You just got to set a bar. And I just don't think our boys are giving themselves that that bar. They're not setting anything. They're just kind of like going with the waves, so to speak. It's just like, oh, we're 8-3. This is good. And if we lose, oh, we're 8-4. That's okay. 8-5, 8-6. Okay. Panic stations a little bit, but then we might pull out a performance on Friday, but then go back into that mindset of, well, we won, but that doesn't mean we have to win every week, sort of thing. Whereas the fans are the opposite. We want to set that bar,
Of course.
and we do it all year. We're like top 6, top 4. You're saying top 4 now. You would have said top 8 preseason. So they change, but you're putting it higher, the bar, But I see the difference with Carlton and all these other teams above us is their players see that bar and they're like, yeah, we'll take it to them. We'll finish higher than that. Whereas our boys are just kind of like, we'll just play and see what happens. Just taking it a bit too chill.
It's fascinating. It really is fascinating to see. Because, when my observation of the Saints when you're at your best is it just looks so good as a whole. Like, you've got some stars, obviously, some individuals, and every team's got them. But there's just this total system and total across the board performance, and kind of gets you thinking, wow, could the Saints really do some damage? Yeah. So who is likely to come in this week for you guys?
If the news doesn't have its way, then it'll be Brad Hill would come in straight away. Paddy Ryder would come in straight away. Jack Higgins was dropped, but he didn't have the best game at VFL level. They lost, but he kicked a goal at about 20 touches. So I feel like there's no harm in bringing he's our number one score involvements player by a long shot. Wow. 29% of our score in some way, either kicking the goal or setting it up, 29% of that is Jack Higgins. Wow. But we dropped him last week and Dan Butler had 6 touches and kicked 1 goal in the first quarter. So that's kind of like where we're at. We're like, selection's not been right, I don't think, from a fan perspective. So I'd like to see Higgins back. Whether Butler stays or not doesn't bother me. And then potentially a Tom Highmore, more of an intercept marker, maybe at the expense of someone like Ben Patton, who he broke his leg last year, missed the whole year, but he hasn't missed a game this year, but he's not been in his best form. I feel like Highmore could play a good hybrid of playing on a tall, maybe if the Silvani rests down there when he's not in the ruck or something, but he can also play on a small, like a 4th or 5th tall, whatever you want to call them. So, I'd say 4 would be good, 4 ins. Because there's plenty of boys from last week that could be dropped. Let's face it. Only 2 or 3 had a decent game. The rest very poor. So I'd say those 4.
Okay. We've really got 2 changes, I think, which we'll make, to be honest. I think young Jordan Boyd will come out with the broken foot. And I think Stocker might come in. And then Chera's fit. So Chera, I would think, comes in. Yep. The Wiedering one is interesting because there have been rumours that he would play this week. The club announced early in the week that he would play next week on the website. But then Vossi said today that if he pulls up well at today's session, then he's a chance. So
I'm telling you now, he's playing. Because every time, I'm not even kidding, anytime we play a big game, there's a player that's injured or suspended, and their first game back, it happens to be against us. Bailey Smith next week against us. Toby Green, after his 6-week or 7-week suspension, came back against us. So Jacob Wiedering, he will play on Max King. He will be lining up next to him at the first bounce on Friday night. I can feel it.
Wow. I mean,
it's going to happen.
If it does happen, I'm obviously, I think why I'm confident now is because of the injuries we have had to the back line. And like, there's been a pretty good result, even though like we've lost 2 of, before the Freo game, we'd lost 2 of 3, but we didn't concede 100 points. And the back line held up, even though it had all of these outs. I think there's a graph out there somewhere that you can literally make the case that those defenders that are out would be better than the defenders that are currently playing. And there's just so many of them. So we were starting to talk about whether or not Jack Silvani puts on the long sleeve and goes down back. That's kind of where it got to. So, Wiedering coming back, if it does happen, it would be massive for us, obviously. But that boy over there, that's pictured behind you, Maxi King, he he gives it to Wiedering. He's a nightmare. Where's he at? How's he coming along?
He's still fairly reliant on midfield delivery, and when that's not happening and we're not getting the ball and getting it in the clear, he's finding it quite tough. Last week, I mean, I'm sure you didn't watch the game because it was terrible, but
I did not
the
watch
way
the
we
game
were
after
kicking
quarter
into
time.
him, the way we were kicking into him, I think even Ratton said, if you're Wayne Carey, if you're Tony Lockett, you're not marking that. You're not getting near it. First of all, we moved it so slow that the Sydney defense got back. Like, they flooded back. The whole team was in the back line. You're not going to do that. You're not going to kick goals doing that anyway. But then when we did move it fast, we were kicking it, outside the stadium. It was so high, and then he's got 2 or 3 on him, and our mids just weren't smart enough to use the free man. They just were Kingy-centric. But if we've got some handball receives in the game and we're running into the 50 and it's 1-on-1, that's when he's at his best.
Yeah.
So if we can get him 1-on-1, he has had pretty good history on Weeders, I believe, in the last couple of years. His reach has been just too much for him.
Way too much.
Yeah. So, and he's put on more size since then. He's put another 5 kgs. So the 1-on-1, obviously Jacob's huge. It's very hard to beat him 1-on-1, but he could at least bring it to ground, and that brings Higgins and Butler and hopefully Gresham, who's been in really good form, into the game.
Do you remember the times, I'm sure you do, when this would be a regulation St Kilda win, when Del Santo and Montagna and Revolt were running around? We just did not beat St Kilda.
No. I remember, like 04 to probably 2010, that period, anytime we played Carlton, I wasn't even thinking about a loss. Like, it never came to me. It never popped into my head. It was genuinely, this is a 12 to 15 goal win. And most times, to be honest, like, no offense, it was.
No, it was.
You were there. G-Train would kick 10, Milne would kick 6, Rui would kick 7. It just, that team was unreal back then, I still can't believe we didn't win a flag in that time, but that's just not the case anymore. When we play the Blues, I can't remember the last time I was confident playing the Blues. Last year I wasn't. I know that. The year before we played you at the MCG, and I think that was that Teague's first ever game? Or was that late in the year? Was his... it might have been, because you just got rid of Bolton. Right?
It was one of his first few games.
Yeah, and the crowd was up and about. Like, we were both near the bottom anyway, but it was a big crowd at the G. And you guys beat us there by a couple of goals. And then I think, maybe that was probably before that we had a few in a row against you. But since then, it's been mainly the Blues. So, not feeling confident at all.
The first time I came onto the Saints TV podcast, we were both confident, actually. I remember saying, who's going to stop Wiedering and Jones? And you were saying about Ben King and whatnot. You guys did us very well that I think that was 2020. But
it was.
Yeah. Look, it's not a given, this game. It never can be, because the Saints have capability. So when you see the Saints play at their best, what do you think is the ceiling of what you can do, whether it's this year or just with this group?
I've always thought, I've not really gone that far ahead of myself this year, even when we were playing our best footy, because it's dangerous to do for any fan base, let alone a St Kilda fan base. But I've always thought that, win a final or 2 would be really good. So I always thought prelim was a big chance, at our best. We can definitely make a prelim. And when you're in a prelim, that's not where it ends, because it's a whole new ball game at a prelim. They're so unpredictable. They're harder than the grand final. Everyone says, every player will say it's the prelim. That's where it is. That's the biggest game of the year almost. So I just always wanted to get past the first or second week, and then from there I'm happy, and I think that's where most St Kilda fans would see us, and definitely what the promise was pre-season from the coaches, from the board, is make finals, win a final, then you're all good rats, So not making finals at all after being 8-3, I don't know. Doesn't look too good from there.
Are you still on the Rats train?
I'm still on the Rats train. I'm giving him, I think technically August 1st is when you can start announcing contract renewals for coaches. So I know that some people, and I did talk about it, might be done already for another 2 years, but I think that there's still time for that to change depending on how we go in the next month, which I think is fine because it's our biggest month of the year. I'm giving him this 4-week period against Carlton, Dogs Friday night, Freo Saturday night, and Swans last week, on top of that. So if we don't win any of them, then we'll think differently, I think.
Interesting. Well, that Rats is a big favourite of ours, even though we silly in a very, really heat of the moment, typical Carlton response, gave up on him. Many will say that it still haunts us to this day, but no, we do love Rats, and I'm, never questioning him as a human. But ultimately, it's a win-loss business. You're either going to be having a coach that brings you to a flag, or you're not.
Yeah.
So,
whether you're St Kilda or not, maybe the board will be like, well, you don't want to be treated differently internally based on your past history. So if you're Hawthorn and you've got Ratton at this point, they're going to be waiting to see how we go against the best teams. St Kilda should be that same mindset. Whether you've got 16 premierships or not, or you got one, it doesn't make a difference. That's what the fans reckon. I agree.
Yeah. So Friday, let's get some predictions. What's the story of the game and what's the result?
God, it's so much better doing predictions when you're actually like playing good footy because you don't look so one-eyed when you tip them. You're like, yeah, well, I'll back my boys in there, top 4. But it's I think on the Almost Blues Brothers potty, I said if the best Saints turn up, it'll be us by 7 points in a really close affair because our best is as good as your best. So that makes it a very tight game. And if we don't turn up and we play the way we've played in the last 3 weeks, this could be a 10-goal loss. This could be a bad loss.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm not the only Saint to think that, mate. Like, we all know that if we turn up, this is going to be a blockbuster game in front of a big crowd. Goals at both ends, high scoring, shootout. But if we don't turn up, I just don't see how we win at all. We have to play our best. We have to play well.
I can't see anything else other than the best St Kilda football club in at least the first half. I just because I watched you early in the season and I thought, fuck, like they're really good. Like it's whatever it is, like it's clicked. And I know you showed signs of it a few years back as well, and over the last few years, but it just looked really good. And you won, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row. And I always internally say, well, if you can win 5 in a row, then that's a big, big statement. Like it's a genuine statement. You're doing it over like a long period of time. I don't see how you don't respond this week. I still think that our system has proven that it can, withstand the best teams. We've played Freo here at Marvel. We've played Sydney at Marvel. Both came into the game in hot form at their best. So I expect there to be really tight, and I'm seeing a 23-point win in Jacob Wiedering's, hopefully his return.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I think most people would probably tip Blues by about 20 odd based on current form.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, you've won 3 of the last 5 and we've won 2, and you've kicked over 100 points once, same as us. So when you look at it in a nutshell over the last 5 weeks, it's not too dissimilar. It's just the way we've lost. Your losses were gallant. Collingwood, they just pipped you. You know, you had your chances. That's a hard one to take. And then was it Richmond again? Richmond just found a way, and they were playing very good football in that run. So the rest of the time you were very good. Although they were in Melbourne and away from Melbourne, that's kind of where if I had to judge the Blues, it's like win more crunch games away. Like the Freo game, you played over there, big chance to prove yourself. They did you pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
So that's the next step for Carlton. But obviously we're at Marvel this week. You're like 20th game in a row in Melbourne, the new Collingwood. But getting a good run there.
It ain't easy. It ain't easy being the heartbeat of the AFL, I'll tell you.
It's hard, isn't it? Nah, all credit to you, your team. Even getting a crowd, I was amazed by the turnout to the Freo game. I was like 35K, Freo on a Saturday, whatever it was. We only got 33 to Spud's game on a Friday night against Essendon.
Wow.
It's like, come on. you know.
Yeah, well,
So you're going to have majority on Friday night, I can feel. But like you said, we kind of like playing backs against the wall.
that's where I'm worried. That's the
Mm.
only part that, worries me a bit. It's that, everything against the Saints, the sound, the noise, but you seem to find a way to perform when you have your backs against the wall. I think you said that to me last time we spoke as well.
Yeah.
The other question I had was about your defense.
Mm.
Dougal Howard is there.
Yep.
Who is your next main defender?
Well, it's the three of them. It'd be Dukes, who's in very average form. So he was one in the potty. I said he needs a spell. I went that far on the potty on Monday night. I said I reckon Joyce needs to come in. He's big, he's strong, he stands his ground. Dukes is just losing his head a little bit, but he's the fullback. Then you got Cal Wilkie, who can play tall or small, and he's early in the year he was all Australian for me. He was very good, still pretty good. And then Battle's kind of the designated centre half back, and he plays on that next tall. So who are your three talls? Would you have Curnow, you'd have Mackay, and would you have De Koning, or is he too busy in the ruck?
Well, it's probably more of a Curnow, Mackay, Silvani as the resting, and then De Koning and Silvani will switch. So Battle's actually a perfect matchup for Sauce, size-wise and style-wise.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just trying to figure out who would go to Mackay, who would go to Curnow.
Jeez, it's a hard one. I mean, Curnow, he's more of that explosive, like he'll leap for everything when it comes his way, you know? Whereas Mackay's more of that lead. He's on the lead, and Wilkie's quite good at kind of staying with his man on a lead. I feel like Dukes would have to go to Curnow, and Wilkie would have to go to Mackay, and that's a big mismatch height-wise. But Wilkie's done that his whole career, and he's rarely had bags kicked on him. So
Battler, he's a fighter.
That's probably the one, and he's the most reliable defender we've got.
Yeah,
yeah,
interesting.
But they're not the best matchups. Let's face it.
Yeah, well, look, if we don't get the ball in there in advantageous positions, we saw that a few weeks ago. Like, yeah, we've got this beautiful forward line. Harry and Charlie are, they'd be number one forwards at most clubs on their own. But if you're not giving them, as you saw last week, if your forwards aren't getting the right supply, it doesn't matter. So it is going to be a big midfield battle, I think. Jake, been a pleasure as always, mate. Thanks for coming and joining. And I hope that this is not the start of the St Kilda run. Can you just wait till next week to start it? Because I know it's coming.
Yeah, mate. We need to start it ASAP, to be honest. We just need to get it going. We need some sort of run. I was just thinking about it before I came on. I'm like, every time Saints and Carlton play, it's like one of the harder games for us to preview together, because we're like, our form's always been kind of okay or not that good, but we could produce something, but we don't know when it's going to happen. It's never consistent. If we were both 1 and 2 right now, we could just talk up our teams and that's it. But it's like, but if St Kilda turn up and if Carlton don't turn up, you just don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah. But you're going there on Friday?
I will be there. Bells and whistles. Top level as always. So yeah, it's going to be a big one.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on and being very humble. I know that just want to make sure the good karma comes your way. I hope you have a good performance. But look, it's mate, it's been great. It's been great to follow the journey with you and be part of the community. And a lot more exciting things to come.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me. And yeah, have a good one on Friday night, but not a too good one.
All right. I'll see what I can do.
All right, mate. Take care.
See you, mate.